Thank you. Thank you, Flay. Purposely mute it so that I don't make accidental noises during the intro, but I think we're good now. So, as I was saying to myself, it's been quite the interesting week, especially on Twitter and in the indie space. Obviously, plenty of drama, plenty of virtue signaling, which we'll cover here in a bit, and a lot of crying and complaining about Snow White, and not by young girls, by grown-ass men. So we'll obviously look at a few examples of that. Um, I haven't watched it. I'm not going to review it because, oh, I don't know, it's not intended for me. I don't have a daughter, and even if I did, I don't really have any interest, even for like my son to see a lot of modern films and cartoons because just in general, they're not as high quality as the stuff I grew up on. So there are thousands of films and TV shows and books to show my kid from the past. So I don't really see a need for modern adaptations and things of that nature. There's plenty of content. And that goes for adults too. There's plenty of content for everybody out there from the past 50 so years that I don't really need great modern entertainment that much in regards to films and TV. So yeah, let's check back in with the chat. As always, we have Mikey Goetz. Welcome. We have Flady, the gentleman that made me aware that I was muted. So thank you. We have Christopher Bouchard. How's it going? We have Amazing Gaming Productions. How's it going? And yes, I did redecorate. I mentioned last week I moved again. So went from west to east, or west to Midwest 9 months ago. And now I went from the north of the Midwest all the way down to the deep south. So have a new den, and yeah, I always like to change it up a little in regards to the layout and the posters. And I've added some really cool figures. And actually, part of my BA recommends, I'll show a few of them that I'm really, really impressed by. So yeah, I did some different lighting and stuff like that. So that, I don't know, decorating an office or a den is, it's a lot of fun when yeah, when you're a nerd. So that's the only enjoyable part of moving for the most part. Uh, so let's get into, I think the first topic we cover is all of the grown men complaining about Snow White. So the obsession over this film has been absurd. Now, I would somewhat understand if it was like a middle-aged woman, right, grew up on Snow White, adored it, has daughters. I could understand why you would be upset. I would understand if maybe you made a couple videos, a couple tweets. But all of these rage baiters for the past, what, year, 2 years, have nonstop been talking about this film. A film made for little girls. And half of it is, oh, they're destroying culture, and how dare they take away our childhood. It's like, really, was Snow White that important to your childhood? I don't know, most of us were playing sports or playing Nintendo, watching Star Wars, gargoyles, things like that. I don't even remember much of Snow White. I think I watched it once as a kid. That was more than enough. But it's so important to culture that the new Snow White is good. And of course, they've won across many different aspects, right? There's the financial aspect, right? They just want Disney to fail, right? That's just, Disney's dead, Disney's gonna fail, right? Every new movie that gets brought up. The other aspect was, okay, they don't like the actress, they don't like the things that she says. Shocker. Most of us, especially if you're a conservative or independent, are not going to align with Hollywood. Ooh. Huh? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe a celebrity had a liberal point of view or was, pushing DEI or pushing diversity, whatever. Like, they've been doing this for decades. And there's a good chance that almost any of your favorite films have an actor or actress with the same viewpoints that have said it publicly. It's just now it gets blown out of proportion and shoved in everyone's face because of the internet, because rage baiters that take it and run with it. So this young woman offended these men so much that they had to make it their mission to just make her look as bad as possible and just wish ruin upon the film that was never made for them anyways. And then they went after her looks, right? Because right, that's what a grown man does, right? Constantly goes after a woman's looks. A woman that, let's be honest, is most likely more attractive than any of their partners or what they even wish they could have as a partner. So that's quite interesting. And then lately, it's like, oh, there's a picture where she has peach fuzz on her back, and it's just like, oh my gosh, how could she be on the big screen? She has peach fuzz. Like, you never seen women before. Like, that happens. Like, it's so pathetic. And it's just, I can't, again, if you truly care about culture, you truly care about film, right? Like you claim, I understand bringing awareness to it. A couple videos, maybe a tweet or two, but it's been nonstop for a year and a half. And they're part to blame, obviously, for the content, but it's the people supporting them. It's the people throwing money at them and not being able to just think critically for themselves, right? They're not able to just watch a trailer and be like, oh, doesn't look very good. Okay, easy decision. I'm not going to go to the movie theater. No, they need to hear these grown men tell the same jokes in the same format with the same cringe thumbnails over and over and over, and then give them super chats, which then they use to go to the movie theater and spend money on a film they know that's gonna suck. Like I can't imagine spending my time watching content that I know I'm gonna hate. Like I can't imagine going to watch that film. To me, it doesn't look that good. CGI looks pretty crappy, and it's a kids' film for girls. Of course, I have no intention of watching it. And even if I had a daughter, I'd be like, hey, let's just watch the original or all the countless other good Disney films and non-Disney films from my childhood. Uh, you don't have to look that far at all. Um, but yeah, and then they always go to the movie theater and they're like, oh, look, I'm the only one there. Look at my movie ticket. I'm doing this for you. Not the money. So uh, I'm gonna share my screen here. So one of the funniest tweets I saw. Now you'll notice that quite a few of these outspoken rage baiters, they don't release a review like a day after or 2 days after the film. It's typically, it seems like, half a week or a week later, which is shocking. Like, why wouldn't you want to be like one of the first, right? Shouldn't you be there immediately if this is what you get paid to do? Like this is your profession, according to the people that white knight for you. But it's like you're waiting to see other people's reactions to then create your video. It's suspicious to me. But I'll give credit. One of the gentlemen that did a review right away was Shad Brooks. And he literally wrote a novel-long tweet about this film. I'll pull it up. I don't even think I'll read through the whole thing because it's like, again, I can't imagine putting this much thought into this film as a man. But let's see here. Okay, so this was his just written breakdown. Okay, of the film. He also did, I think, like a 23-minute YouTube review of it. But just looking at the first paragraph is enough to just see the usual trend. He says, I've seen the new Snow White and it was garbage. Very alliterative. Every story payoff or conclusion is robbed of any justification or authenticity, leaving you with a feeling of emptiness where you wonder why you're even watching the pointless, soulless slop. Yeah, exactly. Why are you watching it? You knew it was going to be like this beforehand. The trend has been there with their films, right? And a lot of modern films to begin with. So why did you watch it in the first place? Oh, right. So you can get these 54,000 views, and so that you can make this video, get a bunch of clicks, right? Push the YouTube algorithm. And then he goes on again to complain about the hollow payoffs and that the film is the worst part. And of course, there's the whole discussion around getting to that. And so, yeah, as you can see, it's just over the top, like this is garbage, blah, blah, blah. And that was one of the things that made me laugh about this whole Snow White thing was everyone, right, was obsessing over the fact that the queen was more attractive than Snow White. You know, she's supposed to be fairest of them all and all that. But it kind of makes sense, right? Because if she's a powerful witch, she would use that power to make herself better looking. Hmm? And then later on, right, when she would get exposed, then you would see, oh, that's not true. But it's again, it's a movie made for girls. Why are you obsessing over the looks of the actresses as a grown man? Like seriously, just it's wild. And so, you know, I just made a sarcastic quote tweet just saying, you know, imagine being a grown man caring about Snow White this much. And not to my surprise, I lost 10 followers immediately. And you know, most of the people, of course, agreed with me in the comments, but there were a couple just white knighting really hard. Um, so like here he says, "Oh, grow up. It's a film. People review films. Yeah, typically they review films um, that are made for their demographic, right, or their age group. So it'd be quite normal for you to review, yeah, Star Wars, Star Trek, superhero films, R-rated films. But Snow White, I don't really know if you need to review that as an adult. Let's be honest." And then one of the other people that ended up doing like a multiple reply lecture about, again, justifying it for the fact that he gets paid to review movies. I mean, that doesn't make it any less embarrassing that you get paid to do that. I mean, sorry, but no one could pay me to go see Snow White. I don't have the time nor interest. And if I took all of my free time that I have, when the kids asleep and all that, and I decided to just make rage bait content, and I'd feel so empty at the end of the day. Like, really? Like, this is what I'm spending my time on, like, versus creating something of value, right? Making a phenomenal story. Oh, I don't know, you know, um, recommending things that people could actually love, that would actually bring them enjoyment and not just grow this rage disease that's going on in pop culture. And eventually, this gentleman here says that, and this, let me see if I can find it here, is really, really funny. Okay, it says, and yes, he gets paid for it. But what a lot of indies never realize is because they're too self-absorbed and can't think past themselves, is that the success of people like him, Nerdrotic, and Critical Drinker, and a few more are one of the biggest reasons that indies themselves find success. Really? How often do you see them promoting indies? What percentage of their content promotes indies? Real indies, right? Not their famous YouTube friends that they call indie. Real indies. Little to none. I think that's common sense for those that have some self-awareness. They don't give a shit about the indie space. They're obsessed with the mainstream. They're obsessed with the film industry, which none of them have any actual experience in for the most part. Like maybe one of them in that group does, but none of them have actually worked on films. None of them actually understand Hollywood or know what it takes, not only to create a film in general, but to write a story, whether good or bad. And you're going to tell me that they are helping indies? And I think later on he says, oh, it's because they're pointing out how bad the mainstream is. So then people are going to the indies. Dude, everybody knows indies exist. Everyone has known forever that indie music exists. There's indie everything. If they want to find it, they'll find it. If they have common sense and they can think for themselves, they'll realize like, oh yeah, I'm not going to the movies much. There's not much on TV. Maybe I'll look elsewhere. Where would I look? Everyone has the internet. I have not seen these people pushing people towards indies. They primarily just promote themselves. And again, most of them don't actually create anything creative beyond their reviews that are just the same jokes in the same format, just mixed around in the same, cringe thumbnail, right? Just warping faces, adding tears, using words like destroyed and they hate us, right? And all that garbage. It's not actually enhancing culture at all. It's not bringing any creations to life. And then he goes on to say, those guys serve as gatekeepers to the indies. Those are the last people I want gatekeeping the indies, especially since they promote some of the worst indie comics in the space. They don't even read them and they'll brag about them. They overhype. It's just like, but this is a sad faction or portion of the indie space where they see these rage baiters as icons and they idolize them just because they have Twitter followers, YouTube subscribers, and they make money, right? Like those are the priorities. That's what these folks primarily want. Their initial focus rarely seems to be creating something unique, something that can make an impact on people and culture, and just telling great stories. It's like, oh, well, look at that guy's YouTube subscriber count. Look at how much money he's making. Those are not the people I want gatekeeping the indie space. And they're saying, drawing normies out of the mainstream slop land. Anyone that can think for themselves can realize the trends of the mainstream. They don't need men wailing and screaming and complaining about films to realize they're not good. It's really easy to just watch a trailer and decide for yourself it either looks good or it doesn't. And if you go and you get burned, then when they make the next film, you're like, not worth it. Okay. But no, let's keep pushing people to watch, hundreds, if not thousands of hours of the same shit, the same slop that they're no different than the mainstream. Let's be honest. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's ridiculous. So I did want to watch, well, let's check in with the chat here real quick. We have Son of Watt. How's it going? Thanks for being here. Mikey says, I liked it when I was little, but I got more mad about the new Ariel and the Little Mermaid. My sister was named after her. Well, that makes sense because, it's something relatable to your family. And, right, they did do a race swap. So that's a little bit more to be upset about. But I doubt you nonstop talked about it and made videos and tweets about it, right? Normal people get upset about something, get it out of their system, and move on, right, within a couple days. But nope, these guys have turned it into a career. We have Katie did. Let's see. Let me know if this is any better. And yeah, thank you for being here. See, we have the Kobe Mac welcome. Yeah, he said that's not how to write a review. I agree. Yeah, I would say Invincible is definitely more suitable for grown men. Let me check my mic here. Let me know if it's getting better or not. Jeez, you're right, Katie. I hate when I plug my camera back in, it for some reason automatically goes back to the camera instead of my Yeti. So let me know if this is better. Oh, that happened a couple streams ago too. And yes, outrage is their business, and business is good. And that's why I say I don't think, right? I don't truly think most of them want the mainstream to change, right? Because if suddenly it's like in the '90s, and don't get me wrong, there's been bad content throughout time. That's natural, but um, let's say across the board everything becomes great. What would they do with their content if they made all positive reviews and they couldn't do those stupid ass thumbnails, warping people's faces, adding tears to them, right? And it's instead just like normal pictures with the word awesome. This is great. You really think they get the same views? They wouldn't. They'd be upset about it. They would still be looking for every bad thing possible. And we've even seen that too, where there's been phenomenal films like Oppenheimer and stuff. And it's like they've just trained themselves to just look for anything negative and blow it out of proportion because that's what brings them the views. And if they find something they like, that's when they'll do one short video or a couple tweets and then they move past it. Versus like, hey, why don't you do a live stream about that? Why don't you push that so they can ramp up the box office numbers, right? Prove that you want more of that and show the studios, right, via the open market. So let's pull up a sample video here. So, right, there's a lot of folks that do this type of content, but one which I'm sure will be extremely annoying is a Ryan Cannell video. So bear with me. Let's try to watch. It's like the shortest video I could find on the topic. So let's see, right, the type of verbiage he uses and kind of what he pushes as a narrative in this video. And yeah, I mean, the title says it all that you need to know, but I have yet to watch this. So pull this up. All right. So let's see if I go back. Let's see what
in just the last 7
what the thumbnail is. Okay, so he made a video yesterday, and then I think he made one like earlier today, and now this is the third video. The third video in 24 hours, it looks like. Talking about how it's a flop, how it's bad, how it's a disaster. I mean, and then right there's your Shad thumbnail for the review. Yep, 175,000 views. That's embarrassing that that many people need to listen about listen to a man complaining about Snow White. Oh, and Geeks and Gamers walked out of Snow White. Shocker. Again, why were you there in the first place? Hollywood is broken. Now there's that standard cringe thumbnail. Oh, yep. There's another one. Ryan Cannell yesterday. Even the critics savage Snow White as. Now let's just check out the latest one. It's even shorter, thankfully.
just a few days after the defenders of Disney were out there.
Yeah, Epic verse save us. Yeah, that's a great example of a trailer or teaser that immediately makes you realize, like, yeah, this is not worth a damn.
This is not countering Hollywood. These folks have no idea what they're talking about. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, definitely have a hangover tomorrow. Yeah, more like a six head. Ugh. All right, here we go. So Disney in disaster, right? Of course, all caps. Disaster mode over Rachel Zegler's Snow White box office nightmare. All caps. I'm pretty sure it's not Rachel Zegler's Snow White, right? She didn't write it, did she? She didn't produce it. She didn't direct it. But yeah, you gotta again use the algorithm. You gotta just tie everything to her name, right? More rage bait. There we go.
They're screaming about how positive the initial social media reactions were for Rachel Zegler's Snow White. From all the people who were invited to the exclusive premiere, they just put out such wonderful first reactions to the movie. Well, now all the critic reviews are starting to roll in, and it does not look good for Snow White. But one of the questions we have ultimately about this movie, whether it's good, whether it's bad, how is it going to do at the box office? And recently, when we looked over the past few weeks, the box office tracking wasn't exactly good news for Rachel Zegler's Snow White. In fact, it was set to have a significantly
Why are you calling it her Snow White? She's just the lead actress. It's not her film. Come on.
lower opening than even something like Little Mermaid a few years ago. Rachel Zegler's Snow White tracking for a 53 million
Disney's
box
live
office
action.
opening. Now that is just
Disney's
domestically.
Rachel Zegler.
2 weeks ago, it was projected between $50 and $56 million domestic opening weekend. But things have changed a little bit. Not only has that dropped, but we have the first projected global numbers, and they look very bad for Snow White.
And why does it matter to you? Like, are you that like obsessed over having a need for Disney to fail and for every movie to be bad? I mean, don't you want some of their movies to be good? Like, strange.
Box office, Snow White aims for $50 million domestic, so now that's been decreased to between 45 to 55. Some places have it between 45 and 50 million, by the way. So tracking is going down. And internationally, it's projected to pick up another $50 million for about a $100 million global weekend, somewhere in the range of $100 to $110 million. And without any context, I'm sure there would be some Disney shills out there and some people that would be like, wow, that would be such an amazing opening, wouldn't it? That would just be so incredible. No, it would actually be horrifically.
At least that voice you did fit the demographic of people that should care about this content, about Snow White in general. Oh.
Bad for this specific movie. Snow White is on track to earn $100 million in its worldwide box office opening weekend. For comparison, The Little Mermaid made $163 million. Maleficent from 2014, I think that's when that was released, made $175 million. It's also important to note where so much of this money comes from. The fact that the international is right now on par with domestic should be very worrisome to Disney, because all these Disney live action remakes that do very well, they do incredibly well internationally. Most of them end up having almost twice as much money from international markets as they do from domestic markets. You want to look at something like Aladdin, look what it did. $355 million domestically, $700 million just internationally for over $1 billion total. Those are typically the splits for these huge success.
Again, I have to ask, why would grown men care about the numbers for Disney's children movies? Like, why would that even be something that crosses your mind if you're not in the film industry? How is that something that you would think about throughout the day? How do you not have more important matters in your life that this is what you're worried about? That you need to compare a movie from 2019, which it was probably pre-COVID, possibly. which that did play an impact, right, in the trends for the box office. But also had some big movie stars such as Will Smith in it, obviously. So, but again, who would even think of, oh, let's go check what Aladdin made compared to Disney or Disney's Snow White? Why are you even thinking about Snow White or Aladdin at this point?
Successful live action movies. Even Maleficent. We can bring up Maleficent because they made that comparison. That went on to make $750 million. But its opening weekend internationally, it made 100 just from international markets and about 70 domestically.
And again, pre-COVID, movies across the board were making more money back then, right? This is when you had the boom of all of the superhero films. Just in general, people were going to the movie theaters more. And again, you had a major movie star in the film. Not really a big surprise that it did that well.
Right now, obviously, Snow White's not on pace to be anywhere close to that. Not on pace to be even close to Little Mermaid, which, by the way, one of the problems was it couldn't capture those international markets, had more domestically than internationally. And this number, despite being touted as a...
It's actually kind of funny looking at these numbers here because everyone complained about the Little Mermaid. Same thing, right? For 2 years, this was like their topic. Those aren't horrible box office numbers. I'm not sure what the budget was on this, nor am I going to look it up, but I mean, almost pulling in 600 million is pretty darn decent for a kids film. I mean, the budget was probably 200 million, maybe 300 max. So it seems like their Rage Bait didn't do a good enough job keeping people out of the movie theaters for that one. And it's not impossible either for Snow White to hit 400 or 500 million at this point. But again, who gives a crap what numbers it hits?
huge, massive success. It was not that. It actually lost a significant amount of money for Disney because, once again, they misreported the budget. They lied about it, and people didn't know about it until a year afterwards. Snow White has a massive budget, and that is a massive problem
What was the budget for Little Mermaid?
for this movie. Snow White set for 100 million global debuts as less positive social media reactions land. And here it is again, according to Deadline, Mouse House latest live action remake on track to make between 45 to 50, 55 in other places in North America, another 55 million abroad for a worldwide debut of around $100 million. This wouldn't usually be seen as a bad start. It would depend on your perspective, right? If that was an MCU movie that had a $200 million budget, it would be viewed as a terrible start. If this is a $50, $60 million rom-com or something, that would be viewed as an amazing start, right? It all does depend on your perspective. Then they bring up that perspective. But a recent Forbes article claimed that Snow White's budget had ballooned to a whopping $270 million by the end of 2023. Current reports put it at $250 million. Yeah, the same current reports that lie to us about Marvel movies, but
I mean, that's a $20 million difference. That's not anything to write home about. It'd be one thing if they were reporting it as 200 million and it was actually 300 or 350 million, but a $20 million variance on that is not that big of a difference at all. It's not even 10%.
budgets that lie to us about Little Mermaid's budget, all this shit. $270 million was spent on this movie through the end of 2023. That's not including significant reshoots. That's not including post-production work. This thing...
Tell us how much all of those things cost. Tell us your vast experience in producing a film. Would love to hear that insight. Yeah, there's none.
Will have ballooned probably, I'm being conservative here, up to about $350 million before the UK tax write-offs, which might bring it down to like 310, 315, somewhere like that. That's best case scenario. It's easily over a $300 million movie. That is disaster.
Likewise, right, there are so many phenomenal films that didn't make money, right, that deserve a ton of attention from folks with a huge following. Let's give an example. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. For those who have not seen it, I'll have to have it as part of my BA Recommends next week. Absolutely phenomenal film by Guy Ritchie. watching that film will make you realize that Henry Cavill should be James Bond. Like, it's a fantastic comedy slash like spy thriller. Had Army Hammer in it. Just fantastic cast, awesome scenes, just awesome humor throughout. Like, it was a hilarious film, which is not a surprise because a lot of Guy Ritchie's films are hilarious. But it did horrible in the movie theater. But it was a phenomenal film. There are films that just don't get marketed well, or they come out at the same time as some huge like competing films. It would be good to see folks try to push these films, right, so that they can make more money post box office. So there's a chance to bring them back. Or again, if they were reviewing all of these films, right, not just focusing on the ones that can get the most rage content, right? They actually were paid to be reviewers, like a lot of people defend them as doing. Wouldn't they see all the films and then give reviews and then really push the films they really like? Help them in the box office? But no, because that would help potentially affect culture, right? By helping push higher numbers for the good films so that they get more attention and you can get more of those films ideally. But no, you just want to talk about the bad films, right? Because that's really helping people. Another example was like The Accountant. The Accountant didn't do huge numbers in the box office. Absolutely amazing film. And it was like a cult classic basically after it got released on DVD and digital. And now they are making a second Accountant. It comes out in like a month, because enough people talked about it. Now imagine if these huge channels talked about films in the same manner, so in the same types of films, there'd be a more chance of getting second films, two films like Man from Uncle and such. Um, but yeah, but that's why I like to recommend such films, right? Because there are some just hidden gems that folks are not aware of because they're not talked about much and they weren't huge like box office successes, but they're just great movies and great TV shows. And there's a lot of examples. Yep. I mean,
Asterisk for Snow.
another great example was Watchmen, right? Watchmen didn't do very well in the theater. Uh, studio didn't do a good job marketing it properly, but ended up having huge sales on DVDs and digital. And now it's a super famous film, right? It's known as a masterpiece pretty much across the board. Um, I mean, there's again a lot of films like that that just didn't do real well in the theater, but ended up being cult classics. Hmm.
Snow White. And it shouldn't be a surprise that the tracking continues to go down and down and down because everywhere you look, people have empty fucking theaters. And I mean empty fucking theaters.
Why would a grown man be checking all the different theaters just to then save screenshots and say, "Oh, look, Snow White isn't selling tickets"? Really?
For IMAX, for massive, 200, 250 people theaters, they're fucking empty. I have people sending me that. This is from the UK somewhere. Empty fucking theaters. Virtually, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 sold, 1, 2, 3, 4 sold there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sold there. Like, here's another one that I got tagged in. Plenty of open seats. Like, these are empty. So it's not a surprise that this box office is tanking even from the measly projections it had. Now, I have maintained, and I'll still say this, I think there's going to be more walk-up business or people that aren't necessarily planning out super far in advance, families, things like this over the weekend. I think there's going to be more walk-up business of that type than there normally is for, say, a Marvel movie or something like that. But I don't think it's doing.
Well, no shit. It's a kids movie. There's not a lot of people that are going to take their kids to a movie on a Thursday night. They have school the next day, right? Um, of course, there's a much higher chance that these films are going to make more money on the weekend, when families can go together, right? People don't have to go to work the next day.
going to be enough to combat all of the negativity, the lack of interest in this movie. And despite Disney's best efforts by sending their social media brigade out there, obviously it didn't resonate with everybody, people that weren't invited to the special premiere, because right now the critics are kind of savaging this movie. And I expect most people are not going to give it a chance, despite their desperate PR push, their panic PR push at the end of the road for Snow White. It has a long way to go to overcome these disastrous numbers that they're currently projecting for Rachel Zegler's bastardized Latina Snow White.
Bastardized Latino. Okay, so yeah, that was nauseating. So no surprise there. Last thing on this topic, which I find this quite funny personally, being a huge Snyder fan and a push for the Snyderverse. So when I was going through just like searching, right, all the top posts on Snow White, there was one, let's see, it looks like it refreshed, but essentially what it was saying was, oh, it looks like all of the paid critics that gave it rave reviews on the premiere, right, it wasn't enough. And they're just trying to highlight that, hey, some of these studios are paying critics, paying reviewers to give it positive reviews. And people are just, drinking that up. And it's like, I remember a time, what was it, back in 2017, maybe 2016, when Batman vs. Superman came out. And all of a sudden, right after the premiere, there was all these negative reviews. And a lot of them were just straight outlandish. And that continued on for weeks. And there were a lot of people that are like, hey, we really think these are like paid reviewers, right? These are people that are trying to tank the numbers. They're trying to make Snyder look bad. And then I think it was last year, there was actual proof and an article showing that, yes, people were being paid to purposely bash these films and give them bad reviews. And people still didn't believe it. And so, like, people need to be aware this happens on both sides. There are paid reviewers that are giving them bad reviews and good reviews. And there is truth, again, to the reality that there were paid reviewers that were just trying to bring the Snyderverse down. There were people within the studio also trying to do that. So you can't say that there can be paid reviewers that give good reviews and then say that, oh, there's no way there's paid reviewers to give bad reviews, right? Come on. Mikey asks, was your favorite part of Man of Steel when he fought in the IHOP? It was a cool act. It was cool action, but it's not Superman warehouse scene in BVS was worth all the other BS. That wasn't my favorite scene. I liked it. It was cool that they showed drawing a blank, but the kid from his childhood that he had saved in the bus and everything was working at the IHOP. That was cool. But no, my favorite scene from Man of Steel. That's a tough one. There's just so many that I loved, but I'm gonna say when he killed Zod. I thought that was such a ballsy move by Snyder, and I just liked the fact that he put him in a near impossible situation and forced him to choose humanity over someone from his own planet, right? To potentially kill the last link to his race, to his planet. I thought that was beautiful in a sense because it's like, hey, he chose the people that he was raised with. Like you can tell he's a hero because he's willing to take out a genocidal alien to save humans. And that's what I would expect out of a superhero, out of a vigilante, right? That they would be able to take it that far if needed. So yeah, I'm going to say that's probably my favorite scene. All right. So let's, after all that talk of negativity and rage bait, let's hop into BA recommends for the week. Had a little bit of time to read some comics and prepare something for this. So let's do that. All right. So, starting with an indie comic. So, this week I recommend Kataru Witch Hunter by a friend of the channel, Von Klaus. So, despite the fact that I'm not a huge fan of manga style art, um, I knew that there was a very good chance that I would enjoy this book because of Von's ability to write, and so gave it a shot, and I was not disappointed. The art did do a good job relaying the story. It had really nice flow to it. It was clean art. Again, manga style is not really my cup of tea, but it didn't distract me away from the story, which was very important because when I do look at some manga, it seems too teenagerish or childish to where I get distracted. But this story was actually quite dark and gritty, and even the coloring and like the lighting in this, as you can see, it felt like a Zack Snyder rendition, which I really really enjoyed. Obviously, but yeah, it's a nice gritty story, especially for fans that like Japanese culture, Japanese lore, um, had magic tied into it. Obviously, witches, and a lot of blood, and there was also some good witty jokes throughout between him and his blade, which I won't spoil anything any further. But yeah, definitely recommend this book. I recommend Bond's work in general. He's got Monster MB, ND, Tear in the Trenches, and I think he's got two or three other projects like in the works right now that he's might be launching one or two of them this year. So, definitely pick this up if there's a second chance campaign or, catch up tier on one of his upcoming campaigns. But, great book, great story. So, that would be my indie recommendation for the week. So, yes, go out there and support indies. My channel does that. The second one, which I talked about a bit in last week's episode, but want to highlight Frank Miller's Sin City Family Values. Again, for those that like a noir feeling and some beautiful black and white art, you cannot go wrong with Frank Miller's Sin City. And this is a fantastic issue here. And if you've watched the film, the first Sin City, um, again, being able to read it afterwards this time and have Josh Brolin's voice in my mind for Dwight was just that casting was perfect. And, his narration for all the events that occurred with, little Miho was just awesome. Just his dialogue and inner monologue can be so gritty and so like detailed yet witty and funny, right? And that's the thing with Sin City, right? It's just like this nasty place just filled with degenerates and horrible people. And the heroes, more or less, right, would typically be described as low lives, right, in like a normal world. But he does a really good job of just putting in just subtle humor throughout. And so like when he's narrating, when Miho is basically toying with the one bad guy. He's just like, "Oh, you done pissed her off. Well, looks like she's gonna drag this out." And like, it was just really well done, and that's why I tell everybody read Frank Miller. If you're a new writer and you want to learn from a master, read Frank Miller's work. Even if really dark, gritty stuff is not your cup of tea, doesn't matter. You will learn how to properly use inner monologue. You will learn how to implement powerful dialogue, and just absolutely folks should read Family Values. So that is my mainstream or legacy comic recommendation for this week. And then in regards to mainstream film or TV shows, I'm going to recommend Reacher. So, Reacher was a beautiful surprise to me. I was skeptical at first. I mean, right, I'm naturally kind of skeptical about films and TV in general, but they did a fantastic job on this show. It is not like woke, they didn't really insert anything unnecessary, as a really nice balanced cast that's centered around Alan Richson. And Alan Richson, in my opinion, has been a sleeper actor for years. Um, for those that remember Smallville, he was Aquaman, and he did a fantastic job in that. He was also Hawk in the live Teen Titans show on HBO, and he was beefed up for that and just really suited the role. And he was made for this role. Again, I enjoyed the Tom Cruise, right, Reacher films, but having just this huge muscle bound guy that was, from the army and just has this very even keel, like kind of dry humor to him was perfect. And so, and now, right, 2 years after it's been out, people are saying, oh, is masculine, action films and TV coming back, and it's like, no, it's been there in small doses, but again, this show is fantastic. It's also not too over the top. There's not like too much nudity or any of those things where, like I've talked about with like Game of Thrones, where you're like, I don't want to watch this. There's just some stuff that's like, you know, they do a really good job of making it dark, making it brutal, but not going too over the top. And there's so much just well placed humor throughout it. And again, perfect casting and just some really, really good storytelling. And yes, I agree. It's worth all of the hype. About to start season 3 tomorrow. Can start binging that a bit. So everybody should watch this, especially grown men. I mean, this is perfect for folks. So yeah, that would be my 3 recommendations. So I like to every week at least recommend something indie, again beyond the promotion that I'll do, um, a legacy comic, and then a mainstream film or TV show. So I want to show folks what I've enjoyed, and hopefully they'll find some enjoyment in it, versus just watching YouTube and watching folks complain about what they hate and what they want destroyed. 'Cause that's a waste of time. I think it's good to point out the hypocrisy from time to time, which is why I talk about it. Like, hey, like you guys are not going to get value out of all this rage bait, in my opinion. And there are some phenomenal films out there that people are not aware of, and comics. Like, let's put some focus on those, and let's actually um, highlight and promote indies, whether it's comics, novels, you name it. So that would be BA recommends for the week. See, let's check in with the chat here. And yeah, Yellow Bastards, my favorite. Now, that was a really cool character design. And I loved how, again, especially in the film, how they just used that color on him, and the blood and like laces on shoes and things just to make things pop. Um, but yeah, that's, I mean, absolutely, he can make some nasty villains, right? He is very, very good at pushing things in that sense, but just good at just showing how evil can be, and then showing it get brutally eliminated. So he's been on the Son of Watt says, I've been on the Sin City train since it first happened, and Dark Horse presents a fantastic series. In a lot of ways, Frank's best. Yeah, I mean, I think again, Dark Knight Returns and his Sin City run are just, they're neck and neck, right? If you want the Cape Hero stuff, right, it's obviously going to be different, but just both the storytelling, mm, just chef's kiss, absolutely. All right. So, second topic I want to talk about was indie virtue signaling. So, what do I mean by indie virtue signaling? Well, we've talked about those that virtue signal about pricing, right? Folks that are like, oh, hey, everybody in indie comics is overcharging, right? Their pricing is too high, but look at me. I'm only charging $10, $15. Everybody needs to charge what I'm charging. I don't understand how everyone's not charging $15 for a 200-page black and white comic, right? The intention there is to essentially take a shot at the space to garner new backers, right? Like, hey, look, they're doing it wrong, but look at what I'm doing. Like, I'm being an ambassador for the space. I'm good for the space, so support me. Versus just, oh, I don't know, uplifting the entire community. Hey, everybody, check out crowdfunding. Let's just support indie comics. Like, let's not worry about the prices that other people charge, and let's also make sure that people are aware of why comics are priced differently, right? They're not all made equally. So we'll touch on that a bit. But the second part of that is the fake anti-drama folks, right? The people that say, I hate drama. I don't do drama. And then the next tweet is taking a shot directly at another creator, right? Trying to highlight, like, hey, look, same thing. Look at all these creators and all the drama that they push and that they're involved in. It's horrible for the space. It's toxic, but I don't do that. I'm a shining light in the indie space. So support me, support my friends. Meanwhile, right, they're in back rooms and they're taking veiled shots at folks and doing their own streams, doing the same shit, right? But they have this guise on Twitter of just caring about the indie space, right? The other part is quantity over quality. There are plenty of folks that are like, oh, I don't understand why there are so many late books, right? And they zone in on one or two creators, and it's only a couple books, right? And we're talking, again, highly detailed, professional level books versus these virtue signalers are like, I've released 10 books in the last 3 years on my own. And then you're like, wait, what do you mean on your own? You've only drawn one of them or none of them. And looking at the quality of the art, I mean, the cost per page is probably not that high, right? It's maybe a tenth of those books that are quote unquote late, right? So it's pretty easy if it's a low budget comic and you're a facilitator, right? Writing is the least time consuming part of a project. And of course, you could have several projects going at a time if they don't cost much, and you could get a bunch of projects done. And if all you care about is quantity and you're okay with the quality aspect and detail aspect of it being low, then yeah. But bragging about the quantity, like, oh, I've produced 10 while this other person's made two. But if none of your 10 can stand up to those two, you shouldn't be saying shit. Especially if those two, or even one of them, embarrasses all 10 of yours. So there's way too many people. Again, just like, yeah, if you want more content, consistent, on time, like come back me, but don't back those people because they take longer. Yeah, but are your books better? Are the backers getting more enjoyment? Are they more impressed by your books? In reality, there's not much crossover, right, between your backers and their backers. But it's all virtue signaling to try to get more backers off the back of others. And it's all nonsense in my opinion. And that's why like I don't take shots at what people charge. I don't even take shots at people's books. Um sure, I could turn this into a drama channel. I could, get a bunch of subs and I could monetize it and all that, but it's not my cup of tea. I want people to back my books because they look at them and they're like, wow, that's indie? Like that looks really good or really interesting. That's my goal with my comic that I'm working on. I'm not going to, you know, take shots at other people to bring more attention to my comic. Um, and so let's look at an example, in my opinion. Let's see here. Share. All right. Let's check in with the chat real quick. So Mikey asks if I don't like his Daredevil run. Actually, I do. I made a post on Twitter the other day. I'm actually going through it right now, and it's fantastic. And that's what I'm spending my time on right now. When I read, I'm not reading for necessarily enjoyment. I'm reading to study, right? Look at the fine details and learn from it, and then take that what I learn and implement it into my own comic. So Daredevil is the one right now that I'm studying. So his Born Again run there. So yeah, fantastic. That's the thing with Frank is he's very versatile, right? He can do the more gritty, right, Batman, but also hopeful. He can do the just down in the dirt Sin City, but then he can also do a hero like Daredevil. So he's very, very versatile. And then obviously he has, 300 and a bunch of other titles, but just a master. All right. So Tyler has me blocked, but he's one of those folks that make me chuckle because he tries to push this persona that he does not do drama, right? He is doing high quantity of books. He's all about customer service, fulfillment, and all that. So this is what he says. He says crowdfunding is not a model meant for advertising a comic, making money, and then leaving. Snakes like EBS and others have tarnished crowdfunding as a viable place to get indie comics. If you don't do drama, why are you taking a shot directly, literally, at EBS? Especially when you know he's going to clap back. And he's already clapped back several times because you have taken shots at him over and over the years. And the whole, and then leaving. I mean, the guys that you're referring to aren't leaving. They don't plan on leaving. And crowdfunding is a model meant for advertising a comic and making money, right? That's the whole purpose is to make money so that you can afford to bring a comic to life and grow your business. So that statement to me is nonsense. Then he goes on and says the absolute poison in cancer. So let's put some hyperbole in there. These creators have brought into the space sucks when so many creators who are making comics and fulfilling their books. Okay, well then promote them. Right? It's a very, very small percentage that are quote unquote very late or just flat out never fulfill. It's a tiny, tiny percentage. But of course, you neglect to mention that. And this goes into the narrative that we've seen from other folks of just pushing fear of, oh, you might not get your book. Oh, these creators are just spending your money on things other than the comics and taking vacations. No, some of these creators rely on this money to make a living, to support their family so that they can work full time on comics because that's their career. That's what they did at the big two before they got canceled or pushed out. Their backers know that's what they're doing. They don't have an issue with it. So why is all of your focus on what these creators are doing? Why don't you just highlight the ones that you think are doing it better? So again, this to me is virtue signaling. He then says the problem is the 1% who are the loudest and make the most money come in thinking I worked for the big two, so I can do this, when all they learned how to do was draw well. They didn't learn in the 20 years was customer service, printing and shipping, fulfillment, money management as a business. Seems like some of those folks definitely are doing a good job managing money and running a business. That's why they can do it full time. That's why they can support their families doing it. They know how to fulfill. They have teams or they have their families doing the fulfillment. And there's plenty of folks that raise really high funds, like Shane Davis, that are not late and they do a fantastic job with all of those things, as far as I can tell. But again, taking shots at others, right? Saying that they're tarnishing the entire space, you're giving that more oxygen then. Why would you push that narrative in front of potential crowdfunding backers? All you're doing is potentially pushing them away from crowdfunding in general. Why would you highlight, quote unquote, the ones that you think are doing it wrong and aren't doing it as good as yourself? And then he goes on, don't let these people gaslight you into saying it takes 2 to 3 years to make a 40-page comic. If they wanted to draw, they would. They don't want to, and now they've burned the crowdfunding model for many potential fans with their bad business practices. You're not a backer of theirs. It's not affecting you at all. Good chance almost all of your backers are not backing them. You do like wannabe American manga, right? With low detail, and it's not even comparable to what EVS does. The amount of time it takes him to finish one of his pages compared to how long it takes for your artist to finish your page is not even comparable. They're also working on multiple books, drawing multiple books. From what I remember, I believe you've only drawn one of your books, which means you're just facilitating all these other books. So yes, you could have several artists working on several different books and have them all fulfilled around the same time. If he's working on several books at the same time, of course it's going to take longer. And his backers understand why it could take 2 to 3 years or more, especially again, he fails to mention, right, that his wife ended up having a serious condition, which turned his life upside down, right, amongst other things. Like, you're lucky that you don't have to deal with that. Like, it's to me, it's just evil that you're pushing this narrative, but ignoring reality. And there are plenty of folks too that work full-time jobs and draw their comic, which is why it could take 2 to 3 years. There are folks doing 200-page comics with extreme detailed, high quality art in comparison to what you're doing. Your 40-page comic is not comparable to his 40-page comic or a 40-page comic by several folks in the space. If you think it is, show us your best page in comparison to any of their pages. Let's see it. But again, this is virtue signaling. These folks are doing it wrong. Support folks like me that are doing it right. And yeah, this ended up having he got a lot of backlash in the comment section. I mean, deservedly so. I can't reply because I'm blocked. And you want to know why I'm blocked? Pretty simple. I saw him constantly complaining about late books. The same bullshit here. Oh, these guys are late. They're ruining the industry. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And this was whether or not they were months late, years late, whatever. It's as if he doesn't understand how crowdfunding works, right? These are not pre-orders, etc. It's not Amazon. So what did I do? I went on Kickstarter and checked out his history of campaigns. And you know what? Several were a month or more late. And he had said he had never been late. So he was being a hypocrite. And then he blocked me. uh, Absurd. Looks like we have an agitator in the chat. he went into trolling retirement for a couple of weeks, and then created a new persona on Twitter, and has been going nuts, making lists, trying to cancel people by tagging in Marvel and DC. So the anti-CG troll, Niobe. Not sure why you're giving me a directive here. How's your new campaign doing compared to these guys that you complain about? You're maybe raising 5% of what they're making? Maybe 10? Yeah, so I've maybe 5% of my content has been in relation to Eric July. And it's primarily been a one review of ISOM, and the rest has been around things that he has said that I thought were toxic or would bring a negative light on crowdfunding. Because I'm not trying to shit on crowdfunding or push a fear narrative around crowdfunding. I want more people to come into crowdfunding and back crowdfunding. No, I don't think he does. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Yes, a comic can easily take a year, even as a writer. Because the thing is, when you're commissioning artists, there's a good chance they're working on multiple projects at a time. Those artists may have day jobs. May have limited time to work on pages. If you want something that's extremely detailed, yeah, it's going to take time. And I myself am not going to rush any artist just to push quantity or to I don't know, release a comic sooner or start a campaign sooner. Not if the focus is completely around quality. So I'm taking my time. If it I know my book is going to take at least a year. I want it to take a year because I'm going for insanely detailed art. I'm not going for bland backgrounds with no details. I'm not going for manga style art. No, no, it's literally not pre orders. Yes, I'm also not making feminist books. Definitely not. Uh, Everyone's IPs will be around. This makes literally no sense. And Cyberfrog has been around way longer than Niobe. What's Niobe existed for what 10, 12 years or something, maybe 15 max. Cyberfrog's been around since the 90s. You got some catching up to do. Definitely got catching up to do in regards to how much money it's made. Yeah, if I'm willing to take a year to make a comic, clearly it's not a cash grab. A lot of us are taking our time because we are putting a focus on quality. We're not rushing it. Rushing something, you know, taking shortcuts, um, that would be more in line with a cash grab, which these books you're complaining about are not that. Okay, good for him. I don't pay that much attention to him. And I've been on plenty of real YouTube shows that get huge viewings, so cool. Hmm. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, if I were to take the strategy of some of these folks and be like, hey, I could easily say, hey, yeah, I fulfill within a couple days. And I did. I started fulfillment a couple weeks after my campaign ended. I could have easily said, oh, hey, look at all these other people, taking their time. Like, what good is that going to do? If anything, I'm just going to lose potential promotion. I'm going to lose networking. I'm going to lose backers by taking shots at all those creators. And it's not good for crowdfunding to point out all these people that you believe are doing things wrong. You're just injecting fear into potential backers or current backers that you might push out of crowdfunding. Like it makes no sense at all. Let's see what else we got in here. That makes literally no sense. And you need to understand what fraud actually is. Mhm. Oh man, every comment here, he's back. Full effect. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. You realize that Indiegogo makes money off of these campaigns that raise a lot of funds. Why would they shoot themselves in the foot? That's bad business. There are viable excuses for being years late or beyond your estimated completion date. Easy examples: serious medical conditions. We've seen that. Family members with serious medical conditions, changes in life events, right? Changes in, in work, right? Maybe someone has to go back to a full-time job. Like there are plenty of examples that are legitimate and that people should sympathize with. And that's as long as the campaign owner is communicating these updates with the backers, there should be no concerns at all. Again, it's extremely rare when a creator just stops providing updates and just completely ghosts the whole thing. Those are ones that would make sense to call out if you feel like you need to call something out, but not the folks that have a track record of fulfilling and in most cases delivering more than what people purchased. Right? There have been campaigns that have been late that they ended up getting 50% more in pages, or they ended up getting a free toy or a bunch of other things. So they're getting more than what they paid for. And yes, good art takes work. Exactly. You can't compare an indie comic to a mainstream film. That's embarrassing. I have never been years late, so I haven't affected anyone negatively. I was maybe 3 weeks late. I may have still been in the same month that I had estimated. But again, the first print had issues, the second print had issues. And because I cared about the quality, I communicated to the backers and said, hey, I got to reprint these. Covers didn't turn out right. I had lamination issues. If it was a cash grab, I just would have shipped it and said, oh, well, you get what you get. Like, no, I wanted them to look as perfect as possible. So I took a couple more weeks to get it right. That's called respecting the customer. That's customer service. I wish I could show I guess I could take a screen grab, but the amount of comments, it's literally like 20 in a row. Give me the link. Let's debate. Oh, you're funny. I'll think about it. First, I'm going to do some promotion. So let's take a look at some awesome campaigns here that have either just went live or are about to go live. So let's see here. Let's start with Silence Dogood by our friend Salty Draws. So this just launched, I believe, like 2 days ago. So he's almost at 3K here. The issue 1 was absolutely fantastic. I included that in my BA recommends a couple weeks ago, but just awesome story about Ben Franklin essentially being a time travel agent, right? Where he's up against this villain that's using AI to essentially take over the world, right? So it's relatable to modern times to an extent, but fantastic art. I believe it's fully complete as well, so it will deliver on time, just like his previous installments. I believe this is issues 1 through 3 here, so I'm going to be backing this absolutely. And Salty is one of those guys that does the line art himself. He does the coloring himself. May even do the lettering as well. And he's got a Dan Lawless variant. He's also got an Eric Weathers variant here. So some fantastic artists tied to this project here. So yeah, says, can America's most prolific founding father stop a malevolent AI from enslaving humanity before time itself runs out? So let's take a look here. So yeah, $25 for the regular edition with his own cover there. You also have the Eric Weathers variant. And yeah, Son Shelter, Sean Salter, that's a tongue twister. Did his own cover there. So some awesome covers. And yeah, just fantastic art. And yeah, the story definitely matches the art quality. I really, really enjoyed issue 1. So I'm excited for this. So gives you an idea of the art here. Yeah, very impressive. No AI involved, that's for sure. Yeah, that's an awesome Dan Lawless piece right there. I love his digital painting. That is great. Looks like Brett Smith did some coloring as well. Jason Wright, that's awesome. So it's a total of 4 new story pages, I think on top of the first 3 issues, so a total of 78 pages of sci-fi action and adventure. Full color premium print, and yeah, for just $25. So that's a really good deal there. And then he's got some stretch goals there, so he's not too far off from the 5K there. And yeah, definitely go support this. And then there's also a sneak peek of another IP he's got going here. Nice. Oh, with Kurt Schlinker. Very cool. So yeah, definitely back this. Highly recommend this series. And then yeah, he does a Salty and Savage stream every Tuesday night, I believe, from like 10 until midnight. So go subscribe to his channel, absolutely, and support his work. So let's check out the trailer here. Yeah, awesome trailer. Definitely go check that out and back Silence Dogood. Right, let's pull up the next one. So the next one is another recently active campaign by Vasilis Lolos called He Punk. So this is a off the wall eccentric campaign here with some really unique art and a fun story, it looks like. So definitely check this out. This is Vasilis is from Greece here. He's got an initial primarily focused around a digital tier right now, but I think he's going to try to line something up with Critical Blast to get some physical copies going eventually. So he's just shy of $7,000 right now. And yeah, as you can see, lot of really gnarly art and colors here. And yeah, he worked in the mainstream previously. He's been on a lot of really unique and big titles in the past as well. He's been involved in the Eisner Awards, Harvey Awards, all of that. So definitely for something that this is for somebody that likes eccentric art and storytelling right here. Yeah, that's really cool. So it says it's the pop culture heavy punk rock adventure in the making since 2016 and beyond, a comic book rock opera giving the Rocky Horror Picture Show a run for its Mortal Kombat quarters. Definitely can tell from the vibe. Yeah, let's check out. So let's see, what's the pitch here? So meet He-Punk, the last of the Necros, but the first of his kind. Armed with an undead bass, he roams the land of the dead music genres. Fads and broken dreams, long forgotten. Audio ghosts who yearn for another chance in life, for fame, infamy, domination. They are hungry for life. They are the dead music warlords. And they need He-Punk's mystical bass. Watch out for He-Punk. Here come the bastards. Very, very cool. Let's check out the trailer here. I love that music at the end. That's awesome. Yeah, he's also a musician, and I think he may have some music tied to this campaign as well. Let's see. Yeah, very, very cool. Awesome. Definitely check that out. And then the last one is something that's in the sign up phase. I think it launches on Sunday. So let's pull up Springball. So definitely everybody sign up for this. Obviously free to sign up. But this looks like a fantastic looking campaign here. So by Shanth and Enjeti, Springball, Terminal Monstrosity #1. So Springball's back. In 2001, I self-published 2 issues of Springball. In 2024, fans demanded that he be brought back to life. Springball Terminal Monstrosity is a completely reborn telling of his origin that reworks both art and story into a new vision that realizes the full potential of the character. Yeah, this looks like a really cool character here. So go sign up for this. Again, I believe it launches Sunday, and it is going to launch on John Malin's channel, I think. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Sign up, and then yeah, go hit up John Malin's channel for the launch party. Yep. So there's a soundtrack. Very cool. Yep, he definitely is a visionary and very unique, and just a fun talent as well when it comes to streams and all of that. So, yep, still here, still going. I don't know. I'll let you wait a little bit longer, Niobe. Maybe one of these weeks. Maybe if we can set up a proper debate, right? Build an audience beforehand, build up some hype, then we can do a debate. I already told you in the past I would do one like on Cross Comics channel. I prefer it be on a third party channel. I think that's kind of the proper way to do a debate. But if you really want to have it on this channel, we can do that. So if you want to do it next Thursday, then we can start advertising it and we can get all of your CG haters to come in and back you up. And then we can get the CG side in here and we'll see who has the best points. Fair parties for you? No. It's mine. No, I'm not doing it on your channel. I already told you that. Nice try. Oh, sounds like it's your time of the month. Oh. I don't know what the debate topic would be. I'm sure it's just going to be, I don't know, the positives versus the negatives of CG, or how do we find medication for his hate boner for CG. So, uh, yep. And see, that's the thing. I'm not like clearly I'm CG. A lot of my artists and people that I network with are CG, but no one is like explicitly CG when it comes to really promotion or the topics that they discuss. Like I'm one of those folks that, yes, a lot of the people that I've gotten to know that I've networked with are CG. I understand a lot of the things going on, decent amount of the lore, but I'll talk with anyone. I'll promote anyone, with the exception I won't promote like anti CG people. I won't really promote any anti any group. Um, 'Cause I don't think that's good in general. Um, but yeah, I'll work with non CG people as long as they're not out there trying to damage people in the group or you know talk shit about it. Then yeah, I'll hang out with you. I'll chat with you. I'll work with you. So I'm not like exclusive in that line of thinking or whatnot. Just existed. I just existed. That's it. That's the topic. That's not really a debate topic. And it's such a nonsense topic because by definition, you're wrong. That's the end of the debate. Like that's just ridiculous. Ah, yes, that bias doc by someone that's been turned anti-CG. Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. Yeah, good point. Uh, I see the whole I hate the how people hyperbolize the word attack. Criticizing, critiquing is not attacking in most cases, and so I hate how that word gets tossed around. And I don't go after anybody. I don't even talk politics really at all. So, and most people actually don't in CG. Like your focus is on one or two that you believe makes up all of CG, but in reality, there are plenty of us that are independents that don't even talk about politics and such. Our focus is on comics and the indie space in general. Yeah. Also, have never done that, and I don't consider that attacking either. I mean, maybe some might, but yeah, overall, it's not like you don't have to be a conservative. You don't have to have a specific ideology. It's actually quite diverse in the real meaning of the word. So, yeah, a lot of people don't really know how to debate. or even stay level-headed and not get emotional and use childish insults and all of that. And that's why a lot of people simply won't take part in a debate, or they want to have it on their channel so they can control it. So that's why I like to have a third-party moderator and try to do it in the proper format, right? Um, okay, so you're admitting that you attack people constantly because that's all you do lately is troll and critique people. And no, criticism is not an attack. And I don't believe in bad faith criticism. I believe it's either valid or invalid. Intentions don't matter. It's about the validity of the actual context or content of their criticism that matters. So, all right. Well, I appreciate everyone being here tonight and going through the topics and going through BA recommends as well as the promotion. So definitely go back those creators if those campaigns seem interesting to you and sign up for Springball as well. And yeah, we'll be back next Thursday night. And everybody have a good night. God bless.